Hi all and welcome to Omni's Bittensor News. I'm Kenneth and this is the latest updates from the world of Bittensor. Bittensor just released... That's not even the correct version. Get it right, will you, please? I need the Bittensor find my help. Anyway, Bittensor just released version 6.5.0. This update includes several notable changes and improvements to enhance the functionality, the user experience, and the overall performance of the system. One of the major updates were made to the logging and Axon handling refactor. Now this is a big change in the way that Bittensor records and manages information on the network. You see, logging is the process of keeping track of what happens on the network, such as errors, warnings, and other messages. Axon handling is a process of connecting and communicating with other computers on the network. We call computers neurons in Bittensor. Now these processes are really important for the performance and overall quality of the network. The logging and the Axon handling refactor aims to make these processes better, faster and easier. This means that the network can now handle more information, more connections and more communication without slowing down or breaking down. And it also has the added benefit that the network is more compatible and cooperative with other tools and platforms that are used for creating artificial intelligence, such as PyTorch and TensorFlow. Another update that was made in this version was the enhancement of the getCommitment helper function. A helper function is a piece of code that does a specific job, and it can be used many times in a program. The getCommitment helper function is used to find out how much tokens a neuron has put into the network. And this shows how much they care and how much they trust the network. The more tau tokens a neuron has, the more influence and reputation they have on the network. The enhancement that was made to this function was to add decoding. Now this means that now they can show the original amount of tau tokens instead of some code or some hidden version. This makes it easier to access and verify the commitment of every neuron. Moving on, next update. The disabling of Subtensor messages in the command line interface, or the CLI. The CLI is a tool that allows users to interact with the computer, or in this case interact with Bittensor using text commands instead of a graphical interface. The Subtensor is a part of the network that deals with the blockchain, and the blockchain is a system that records and verifies all transactions and events on the network. The Subtensor produces messages that provide information about the state of the network, such as how many tau tokens are sent and received, how many blocks are created or confirmed, or how many events are triggered or resolved. However, these messages can be a bit too much and a bit too confusing for all users, especially if they're not interested in the technical details of Subtensor. Therefore, a change was made to stop showing all these messages in the CLI. And this will make the CLI a lot cleaner and simpler to use. I mean, what's not like about that? One of the more user-facing features that was added in this version was the tab autocompletion for the btcli, which is the name for the Bittensor CLI. Tab autocompletion is the feature that allows users to complete a command or a parameter by pressing tab instead of typing the whole word. Now, this feature makes the user experience better by allowing faster and easier navigation and command execution in the CLI. Now, this is a feature that I absolutely love and I hate when it's missing. So thank you for adding that. In addition to the version update, more updates have been made to Bittensor in the last week. We have unstaking and staking enhancements. Oh, I could go for a steak, I'm hungry. Sorry. Unstaking and staking enhancements. This update improves the user experience and the efficiency of staking and unstaking process by avoiding transaction limits when staking and unstaking multiple times. Now this is achieved by adding a transaction rate limit and a mechanism to handle situations where the transaction limit isn't reached during multiple stake and unstake operations. Now this way the user can easily and quickly adjust the commitment and reputation of their nodes in the network. Next, we have the Delegate details management. Now, this update introduces a feature to grab Delegate details directly from GitHub instead of storing them in a JSON structure like before. Now, this simplifies the process of adding and updating Delegate details, as it only requires Delegate to provide their GitHub username and repository name, and the rest is handled by Bittensor. This also leverages the benefits of GitHub, such as reliability, security, and popularity. This feature enhances the functionality and usability of Delegate details management, making it more convenient and consistent for delegates and users. Wonderful. Another update that was made last week was the raw specifications for local testing. Now this allows users to run a Bittensor network locally on their own computer. This is done by adding new raw specifications for local testing and new binaries. A raw specification is a file that defines the parameters and settings for a Bittensor network, such as the number of nodes, the network topology, the Subtensor configuration, the consensus algorithm, and so on. This update also improves the security and the robustness of the network user ID management by addressing the configuration of network user IDs and incorporating checks to determine if the network user ID is in a list. Now, a network user ID is a unique identifier that represents a user on this network, and it is used to authenticate and authorize all the user's actions. Now, this update enhances the development and testing environment for Bittensor, making it more accessible and flexible for the developers and all the users. This is what a lot of developers really need. Perfect. This update improves the security and the reliability of the network by fixing issues related to blacklisting and signature checks. A blacklist is a list of network user IDs that have been banned from the network, either temporarily or permanently, for whatever reason. A signature is a cryptographic proof that verifies the identity and the integrity of a message or a transaction sent by a network user ID. Now, this update includes updating error messages and removing outdated signature checks and tests. This helped to prevent and detect attacks from bad actors and to remove unnecessary and obsolete code. The last update that we will cover in this episode is the weight normalization update. Now, this update improves the performance and the quality of the network by using a simpler and more efficient method for the weight normalization process. Now, the weight is a number that represents the strength of the connection between two nodes in the network. It is determined by the amount of data and insights exchanged between the nodes. A weight normalization is a process that adjusts the weight to a certain range or scale to make them more comparable and consistent. Now, this update uses the maximal possible value for the weights, which means that the weights do not need to be changed before they are submitted to the subtensor. This also means that the weights are more accurate and precise, as they do not lose any information or quality during the normalization process. Now, these are just some of the updates that have been made to Bittensor in the last week alone. And to me, this reflects the continuous improvements and optimizations in the Bittensor codebase, and that is lovely. Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Omni's Bittensor News, and I look forward to bringing you more updates in the future. Now, don't forget to subscribe, or to comment, or to like this video, or all of the above. Now, I know everybody says that, and I don't really like saying it, but the truth is, it does really, really help. Take care. Peace.